Stephen Pearl going back home, and the Tennessee folks can't wait to see him.
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn and Locked On Vols. This is a crossover edition of the show. He's Eric Kane of Locked On Vols. I'm Zach Blackerby of Locked On Auburn. Thank you so much for making our shows your first listen every single day. We'll give you our picks and predictions for this big Saturday night matchup in Knoxville, as well as discuss what's at stake. But I think the biggest storyline, and I'm just picking up on this from the conversation you and I have had over the last few weeks, Tennessee fans, they love Stephen Pearl. They miss Stephen Pearl, and they can't wait to greet him when he returns Saturday night.
I mean, it's going to be quite the homecoming, right? Like, the prodigal son returns. I mean, they're going to roll out the red carpet. No, like, it ended badly here with Bruce, but there's still a fraction of the Tennessee fans that will always love Bruce Pearl. And
Sure.
I get that because, I mean, Bruce, I was in middle school, high school when he was here. I mean, it was fun. He was great on and off the court. Yeah. Everything, I mean, you guys know it. Everything about Bruce Pearl
Bruce is
awesome.
the best. Absolutely. Yeah.
And so it ended badly, and he goes to Auburn and all that. I mean, so there's a fraction of the fan base that love them. Stephen Pearl, no. They didn't like him when he was here as a player. Thought he shouldn't have solved the court, and because of injuries, he actually had a pretty big role there for a year or two. He wasn't a good basketball player. He goes on and begins coaching with his dad at Auburn, and he says a lot of things about Tennessee over the years. He stumbles into this job, and credit Bruce Pearl, man, this is how you do it. You want your son to take over for you, you go all the way up to preseason camp and then say, hey, I'm out, and they are left with no choice. So this is how you do it. Stephen Pearl is undeserving, completely undeserving. Looked like it at times this year. But yeah, Tennessee fans do not like Stephen Pearl, and it's going to be a great environment at the Food City Center on Saturday.
Yeah, Stephen's definitely been aggressive as an assistant coach. I was wondering how that would be as a head coach, and he's still kind of a little edgy, which I don't have an issue with, but when you do that, you have to know you're going to get some people's best. And of course, Tennessee is going to fall into that category. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, you talked about, you kind of made a statement there about at certain times this year, it didn't really look like it. And you're absolutely right as far as, how deserving he was. I don't really want to have that conversation today, but I do think something happened over the last few weeks, Eric, where this Auburn team does look different over the last 2 or 3 weeks than it has for really the entirety of the season. He shortened his bench. There are certain guys that finally appear to be healthy. Keyshawn Murphy is the main guy there that we'll talk about a little bit there. Then obviously Keyshawn Hall has been electric. But something, I don't know if somebody said something in the locker room or challenged folks, if it was Steve and if it was a player, I don't know. And I don't really care, but something happened. And over the last few weeks, this is a different Auburn team under Stephen Pearl than what we've seen for most of the season.
Yeah, I mean, Auburn's got talent. Auburn has always gotten talent. Bruce has done a good job of recruiting and developing that talent. They've been one of the better teams in the Southeastern Conference the last handful of seasons. Same with Tennessee, same with Kentucky, same with Florida and a couple other schools, Arkansas as well with Cal. So that's no surprise. And the natural evolution of a team takes place. I mean, you're completely different, when you start in November to when you get to the SEC slate, and then of course you get to March. You want to be different. You want to be better. Right. And I think Tennessee's kind of in that same way, man. I mean, Tennessee was pretty good in the non-con, had a massive win over Houston in Vegas, and after that win over Houston in Vegas, the next day they dropped to a crappy Kansas team that was not very good. They lost to Syracuse in the ACC SEC Challenge. They got beat like a drum. It felt like the final score really was a lot closer than what it felt like by Illinois on the road, actually in a neutral site. And Tennessee just wasn't playing very good. And then they were kind of inconsistent there. Lost to Arkansas in the SEC opener, beat Texas, got destroyed by Florida on the road, which is kind of a commonplace for Tennessee in this matchup in Gainesville. And then kind of started to turn things around. Found a way to win in overtime against Texas A&M. Unfortunately, just gave the game away against Kentucky, led by 17 points. Crucial, awful turnovers in the last minute of that game, and just gave that game away against Kentucky. But found a way to beat Alabama on the road. Found a way to win in overtime in the second half. Georgia earlier this week. So, again, it's been a bit inconsistent at times for Tennessee.
One of the teams had a professional basketball player on their
Yeah, Alabama, I mean, defying the odds. Won on the road and beat a professional in the same right. I mean, they were trying to get him in the G League game. I mean, an all-star, right? So it's been better basketball of late, but I think these are two teams that are playing better, but still trying to find their footing and some consistency in Southeastern Conference play.
The tag team effort of Tennessee fans and Auburn fans voting Bediako into the G League All-Star game.
They took him off the ballot, right?
Yeah, it must have been working because they had to have a conversation, be like, we take him off, right? We can't leave him on here because he's on pace to make it. Incredible. So if nothing else, we may not like each other Saturday night, but in that moment, I think that was, little handshake effort there. I think there are some similarities between Auburn and Tennessee. Auburn started out, they had a brutal non-conference schedule, and they had some bad losses against some of the best teams in college basketball. Michigan, where they were the hottest team in basketball, they ran into an Arizona team that is tough to beat.
No.
And then Purdue as well. And then conference play starts, and they open up SEC play with two just heartbreaking losses. Auburn rallies in the final few. I think they scored like seven points in the last few seconds to force Georgia into overtime, and they dropped that one in overtime. And then against Texas A&M, they shoot the game winner, Keyshawn Murphy, from pretty much half court. It goes in, and then they overturn it after the fact. That kind of got some national attention that evening. And then since then, with the exception of going to Mizzou, Auburn's been great. They ran Arkansas out of the building. They lose to Missouri in a game where Mizzou really took it to them. But now Auburn's won 4 straight, including 2 road wins, one in Oxford, one in Gainesville, which is obviously a tough place to play. And so they've got the longest active winning streak in the SEC heading into this game. Like there is something different about this team over the last 2 weeks as they head into this one.
And for Tennessee's side, that's something different, I think, has been the 5-star McDonald's All-American, NBA lottery hype type guy in Nate Amen. I mean, he's had a lot of freshman mistakes. He's been very inconsistent. I mean, fans are going to fan, right? Portion of the Tennessee fans are like, well, this is this guy. We paid all this money for this guy. I mean, this guy sucks, but he's starting to come around. I mean, he's got unbelievable talent. And his last 5 games against quality SEC competition, arguably the toughest stretch of the schedule and some of the toughest teams that Tennessee's going to face in the SEC slate. He's averaging 21 points, shooting 39% from 3. I think he's totaled like 73 points during that span. He's been great, and he's been seeking out contact. He's been running ISO. He's been the confidence you're seeing is starting to soar a little bit. So I mean, this guy's going to be a first-round draft pick. He's been really good, and I think that's kind of been the turning point for Tennessee. Jacoby Gillespie, the point guard, is going to be a high-volume shooter. Those two guys are going to take the majority of the shots for Tennessee, but it's Nate Amen's ability to take over a game in critical moments that I think's kind of been a difference maker for Tennessee here of late.
Yeah, I want to let's highlight a few of the guys that the opposing fan bases kind of need to keep an eye out on.
Yeah.
And then let's also kind of give our picks and predictions. All that's coming up in just a moment, right here on this crossover edition of Locked On Vols and Locked On Auburn.
Go Vols.
Today's show brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sports book. We've got a line. They dropped this one early. Tennessee, a 5.5-point favorite at home, hosting the Auburn Tigers. I'm not going to lie, Eric. This seems a little high to me. I thought it'd be 2.5, 3.5, 5.5 points. I think that's a lot. I think that's too much. I would take Auburn plus 5.5 here.
Tennessee typically plays really well at home. You're having the Pearl coming back factor. Stephen Pearl, I think there's going to be a little bit reduced to that. And again, like we just talked about, I think the emergence of Nate Amen here of late, I think all those things contribute into a team that, again, plays really, really well at home. And so I think that's why that line is a little bit more inflated than what we thought it would be. I thought Tennessee would be favored, but maybe not by the 5.5.
Yeah, we're in the same boat there. Hey, if you're a new customer at FanDuel, just bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets. If you win, make it count because, hey, after the Super Bowl, the football season is over. So last call for football is on FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Today's show also brought to you by our friends at Mazda. Mazda, they understand what it takes to be great. They understand it. Much like, I think, I'm going to say Keyshawn Hall is kind of one of these guys where obviously what he's doing off the court translates to what he's doing on the court. coming off of a 30-point game and a win over Texas, a comeback win over Texas earlier this week, going into Tennessee. I think Keyshawn Hall is the guy you got to watch, Eric.
Yeah, I mentioned Nate Mint, mentioned Jacoby Gillespie. We'll continue to talk about those guys, but let me give you another one in JP Estrella. Front court player, the athleticism is just through the roof. He doesn't defend the way Rick Barnes wants him to, but hey, what he gives you on the offensive end, it's been big. The other night against Georgia in that overtime win, 17 points. He had 9 boards, so a board away from a double-double, played 31 minutes, gives Tennessee a different look on the front court, that being JP Estrella.
So Mazda puts the same passion into every model. Highlights make the reel, but what it takes to get there is what makes it count. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you. Thank you so much for making Locked on Auburn and Locked on Vols your first listen every single day. For your second listen, check out the Other Person Show or go check out our buddy Chris Gordy, host of Locked on SEC. Yeah, I just mentioned them. I mean, the two Keyshawns are certainly guys that Vols fans, I think, should pay attention to. Keyshawn Hall, one of the best scorers in college basketball, one of the best scorers in the SEC. And Keyshawn Murphy, a guy that I personally questioned going into the season, a guy that I personally questioned going into SEC play. Well, he's finally healthy. He's showing more athleticism than we expected from the 5 position. And he's been a big reason why Auburn has had this pivot from a success standpoint, has been Keyshawn Murphy. And then obviously Tahad Pettiford, for whatever reason, Tahad Pettiford plays better away from Neville than he does at Neville. Big game Tahad is what we called him as a freshman last year. I think this kind of falls into that category. So Tahad has earned that reputation. I think you got to look out for him as well Saturday night.
Yeah, on Tennessee's side, again, the guys that are going to take probably 65, 70% of the shots, it feels like. That's Nate Mint, the freshman, and he's learning to play on the perimeter. Again, he's continuing to get better, and that's dangerous for the rest of the SEC. That's scary for the rest of college basketball because, again, there's a reason he was hyped up so much coming into the year. So you got Nate Mint, and then, of course, Jacoby Gillespie came over from Maryland last year, actually from Greenville, Tennessee, which is an hour away from Knoxville. Started his career at Belmont in the Mid-State. So he's kind of been all around a little bit, but he takes a ton of shots. The thing with Jacoby Gillespie, man, Tennessee couldn't be where it is without him, no doubt. But, like, in crunch time, he's one of the assist leaders in the SEC, one of the better players in the SEC. But in crunch time, man, it's almost like he falls apart, which is not great. He almost fell apart against Georgia. Tennessee had his back, though. Costly turnovers in the final minute, not smart shot selection when you need to milk the clock a little bit. Completely turned it over there in the last 15 seconds in the Kentucky win that led to Kentucky loss that led to them winning. So that's been.
Does that come from him wanting to do too much, or what do you think that stems from?
I think it's him wanting to do too much, and then sometimes just a lack of basketball IQ, like awareness of the situation, I guess.
Yeah,
like
sure.
The other night, like he just went and threw up a shot when Tennessee was up like by 2 in less than 30 seconds. It's like, dude, take some time off the clock, just stuff like that. So he's a good player though, and again for 38 minutes of the game, he's going to be dynamite, and then we'll see what he is in the last couple of minutes. But you got those two guys, and JP Estrella that I mentioned. A guy under the radar to look out for, Bishop Boswell. He's not going to lead the team in scoring. He's not a guy that's really you're going to key in on. Like, he got to block this guy's shot, right? I mean, got to get a hand in the face. But he's just steady Eddie. He gets rebounds. He averages about 8 points a game. He's pretty dynamic from 3. He's a great defender. Bishop Boswell is kind of that glue to the Tennessee team, almost like the Jemai Mashak of years past, if you will. He's kind of that role for Tennessee moving forward. So I think those 3 guys are guys to look out for if you're the Auburn Tigers.
Yeah, you mentioned those glue guys. Kevin Overton, transfer from Texas Tech, came over, and he was scoring a little bit more, it feels like, at the beginning of the season, but he's had moments in SEC play, including the comeback win over Texas. He was a big part of that. I think he had 5 threes on Wednesday night. So I think he's kind of another piece to watch as well. I'm going to go, I think Auburn wins a close one. I mean, that just kind of seems to be like how these go. This rivalry on the basketball court between Auburn and Tennessee, they're always super dramatic. They always come down to the last final few possessions. I mean, I'm thinking, I guess the last time they played was the Miles Kelly 3 at the end, right? They didn't play in the SEC tournament last year.
I think they did. I think Tennessee beat them in the tournament. Or no, I guess I can't remember who won in the tournament. They did play in the SEC tournament. They played on that Saturday. Got
it. So I guess it wasn't the last time they played, but every time they play, it really comes down to it. I don't think this will be any different. I'll take Auburn in that case. I'll go 78-76 Auburn Tigers on Saturday night in Knoxville.
That's tough. Yeah, Tennessee won by 5, beat Auburn in the SEC tournament on that Saturday. I knew that.
That's right. We had Auburn folks had a meltdown after that because we lost the 2 games at the end of the season. We lose that game, and it's like, oh goodness. And then we went to the Final Four.
Fans having a meltdown? That does not sound like fans of the Southeastern Conference. Come on.
Yeah. It just means more, baby. Let's go.
Yeah, to your point, man. These games always come down to the end. It's like there's a
Stressful.
critical foul. There's a big.
I'm going to be miserable the whole 2.5 hours.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to come down to the wire. I like Tennessee at home. I like the way Tennessee's playing here lately. I like the edge factor that's going to be in that arena with Stephen Pearl coming back, and I think a lot of it still stems from Bruce too. It's like, not only has Stephen gone on and talk trash and all that about Tennessee, I mean, that is what it is, but also it's like he's still a Pearl coming back. So there's a little bit, not for this player, not for Rick Barnes or anything, but for the fans into the stand. Like, there's an edge in the environment, if you will. And I think sometimes that can make a difference. I really, really do. How does Tennessee go combat the tempo? We know Auburn likes to run up and down the court, always like to shoot threes. That's kind of been the MO of the Pearls. So Tennessee's not as good of a defensive team as it normally is, still really, really solid. Can you cut that into some half-court transition and, make them set up their offense? We'll see what happens. Give me Tennessee in a close one. I got Tennessee winning, not covering that 5.5 from FanDuel.
Okay. Close,
Give me Tennessee winning by 3.
Okay, got it. Yeah, if I'm Tennessee, I press Auburn. I'm surprised how few teams are pressing us consistently. So we'll see what Tennessee does.
Yeah.
On Saturday night. So fun one. Should be a fun one. I'll go live right after the game. I'm sure you'll have coverage up shortly after as well. So for all the Auburn folks watching, if they want more of Eric Kane, if they saw you or heard you, like, man, I love this guy. How can they get more of you?
Auburn fans, if you want more Tennessee coverage, come on down. Locked On Vols. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts. And, of course, leading into the game, if you want, I talked a lot of basketball on Friday morning show, so go back and check out those segments as well if you want to get up-to-date knowledge-wise on the Tennessee Volunteers heading into Saturday. Locked On Vols on YouTube, X, wherever you can find it. It's free and available.
Yeah, for all the Tennessee folks, if you want more Auburn stuff, if you want to hear how Alex Golish is doing these days,
there you go.
Check out Locked On Auburn, available wherever you find Locked On Vols. We're there. For Eric Kane of Locked On Vols, I'm Zach Blackerby of Locked On Auburn. This has been a crossover edition of Locked On Vols and Locked On Auburn, presented by the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Alex Golish forever.